Only visible to moderators. Turn off. Okay, there we go. Now we can chat, at least in the chat room. Let's see here. So that's working. All right, let's switch these headphones over. I think we're good here. Hope everyone's having a great Sunday night here. I'm going to switch this app over now so I can hear what's going on. And hopefully that means I can start to hear. Let's see what's going on. Sound should be coming out of the AirPod Max. Huh, but yeah, I can't hear it. Oh, there we go. Now I can hear it. That's weird. I had to start a new track for that. All right, well, I think I've got all the glitches in the stream actually figured out here, I think. And I think everybody should be able to hear everything. If you're in chat and you can't hear me, let's see. Here works now. Spare moment stream. Hey, no, I'm testing for Tuesday night actually. So I'm just trying to make sure audio works and video works and all that kind of stuff. It's a crazy setup here. I bought a new monitor not too long ago, a couple days ago actually. I bought a new LG, and then I got a Mac Studio also audio monitor, and the LG died on me. It's literally sitting in a box behind me on the floor, and I got to ship it back to Amazon tomorrow. So mad. It less than 2 days, and it just blew up and broke, which is really just sucks. But so I've got, I took my gaming PC monitor from my gaming PC over there, put it on the Mac, and now I've got 2 monitors for streaming. So, but the Streamlabs is not fun to set up. Let me tell you, folks, that's just terrible. Well, not terrible. Obviously, millions of people stream all the time, but it is a little bit crazy to get set up and try to get all your monitors working where you can hide things you don't want people to see and show things you want to see people see, because obviously everybody has a certain amount of stuff that they either don't want people to see or do want people to see. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't have anything open I shouldn't have open and all that kind of crazy stuff here. But I got Swift open here, and I also got a... I've been playing around with this, and I'm not sure if this is going to work. I don't even know if I should try this or not. But I've been capturing my laptop. I've got my laptop set up with Mac OS, the 14.0, the new beta, and running the new beta of Xcode. And I've got a capture card that I'm using to try to capture the video between my laptop. Whenever I put Streamlabs on it, it doesn't seem to work right, the laptop, so I can't stream through the laptop. I did get a studio display. It's actually right over here. Well, my camera's backwards, but it's right over here. It's on my left side here. It's kind of set up here, and I've got my main monitor here, and that's where all my information goes. That's my information monitor. I can just take a peek over and look at it here, so it's pretty cool. But I've got this. I got 2 machines. I've got a Mac Studio running here on my desk, and then I've got a Mac laptop, an M1. Studio's an M2. I put 14.0, the latest version of Mac OS, on the beta, and I was trying to use a capture card because if I try to put Streamlabs on it, it just doesn't work. So I've got Cinema basically on there. And what I'm trying to do is figure out how to do that. So I can switch over, but I think it's going to break everything. But I mean, since this is a test stream, I mean, no one likes a, oh wait, I think I have to plug it in. Give me a second here. Let me see if, I think I have to plug it in first. And then I think it gets recognized, and then it swaps over. Let's see what happens if I switch the video over. Yeah, let's see here. I'm going to try to switch the video over to the capture card and see what happens. I have a feeling it's just not going to work. See how the color looks? It looks terrible. It's not great, the color here on the capture card, but this is literally, oh, good Lord, that's not good either. Something happened. What is going on here? Let me turn sound off. and see what's going on here. I think so. I have continuity set up between the two computers. It's like chaos here. It's a little chaotic here when you get everything set up because I've got continuity, so I'm using one keyboard and mouse between both the laptop and the Mac Studio, and that works really good. But the video just looks terrible. It looks like washed out and yellow and stuff. I've checked the video settings. There's nothing wrong with them, and I've tried to I know it melds the background a little bit, so I've tried to go into the display settings. It's like, okay, well then this background's got to go right. That's what's causing it because it kind of is supposed to meld with it. But if we go to wallpaper and just switch it to anything but this, let's just go to let's see here. I guess it really doesn't matter now, does it? I'm looking for a solid. They used to have solid colors on here. Where's their solid colors? Here we go. I'll just go to blue, for example. You can see the whole thing turned a tint of blue now, but still it doesn't look right. Even if I change the background color, it just doesn't look right. It kind of looks terrible for what I can see. Now, I've got the stream opened up here, and I can kind of see it, but it looks a little washed out. So this is through a capture card. So I've got a Elgato 60 HD60X, which is usually used for capturing Xbox and that kind of footage and stuff. The background color does bleed through in the OS, right? So that's going to be always a problem depending on what background color you have set. So you can see the background color is just blue right now. So that helps quite a bit. And it's pre-application, right? So if I were to go into, let me go into Android Studio here, and we'll open this up real quick here. And this is the expense reporter app that I'm going to try to rebuild in SwiftUI. The goal is I have this Android app here, and I guess this doesn't look too bad. Boy. Start the Gradle assistant. This is like Russian roulette. Your chances of this working are always limited. So Gradle is the build tool for Android, and it's a little chaotic to say the least. It's not fun. I should do that. Let's see here. What's it want to upgrade to? 7.5? Yeah, we'll run it. Let's see what happens here. It's pre-application, so in Gradle's world, you can update just a single application. It puts the Gradle into the actual code base and tells it to use that. Then when you open the app, it will explode that version of Gradle. Obviously, you don't have it on your laptop. But Gradle is a whole other sense of chaos. Let's see here. So it's going to sync Gradle. Gradle is the equivalent of Swift Package Manager over in the Swift land. That would be kind of how Gradle works. And or CocoaPods probably is better because Swift Package Manager just pulls source, and that's a much better solution. It goes to GitHub or wherever you have a repo and downloads the package from there. Gradle is kind of like CocoaPods, where it has a repository of packages it can download, and it can go through and do those. And just like CocoaPods, you have to manage the version of Gradle that you're running. Just like in CocoaPods, you have to manage the version of CocoaPods you're running. And that's kind of Gradle. I guess if you're a Swift developer, you're going over to Android development. It's not as nice as Swift Package Manager. I think Swift Package Manager is the best solution that's come to Swift development in a long time. This also is slower than dirt, and on a Windows PC, it's almost it takes way too long. I bet you anything this will take 20 minutes to upgrade the Gradle package. As you can see here, it has re-download all the Gradle plugins. I think the last time I did this, it was about a 20-minute adventure. So, but the goal is to try to get this Android application running on iOS, which I've got this code base here that I worked on a while back. And I'm just trying to test to make sure that I can see the code even. Let's see here. So this is an Xcode. So if we were to go, let's actually close this out and try to make a new package and see what happens here. So let's go to Xcode and say we want a new project. And we want an app. We definitely want an app, and multi-platform sounds great. Let's see, we'll call this... the name of the product. One of the most hardest things. How did I name the Android product now I think about it? The best way to do that is just use the same. Let's see here. So let's go to developer and see. I called this Android Cotton CVO. What's this? Copy this. Yeah, but that's going to look terrible, isn't it? And let's see here. It should know about my iOS. This should be com.stoda. Storage. Oh, Swift data. No, we're not going to do that because we're going to use couchbase-lite. I think instead. I don't think. I know that's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and click next and see what happens here. We definitely don't want to save it there. Let's go and make a new folder and this we'll call this. We'll switch this over to boy, you can't really call it iOS anymore because it's multi-platform. Let's call it SwiftUI. That makes sense to me. We'll make a folder called SwiftUI CBL expense reporter. Great. And we'll put our source in there. Let's go ahead and click that and see what happens here. So now we've got a view. Oh, yay, we've got the previewer here. Let's turn off the previewer here for right now. The canvas, just turn the canvas off altogether here, and we've got a hello world. Let's go ahead and run this and see. Let's see here. Instead of on my Mac, let's make it an iPhone 14 Pro. Let's go ahead and hit the play button here and see what happens here. Welcome everybody to the stream. I'm actually just testing out streaming tonight. We're not doing anything too crazy here, but I'm trying to, this is a kind of interesting little thing I'm doing. I'm actually not on this computer right now. I'm streaming off of Mac Studio, and I'm actually running the code off of my MacBook Pro, running the latest beta version of macOS 14 with the latest beta version of Xcode. And one of the reasons for that is because I would love to play around with the Vision Pro stuff, right? And that's super cool, but you kind of have to be over in new beta land here to do that. So I'm going through and just testing this out to see whether or not I can even stream between a capture card. So I've got a capture card here, capturing the video from the MacBook, and then bringing it out onto the Mac Studio, and that's what I'm streaming out to Twitch with. And at first, the video was kind of it wasn't great, to tell you the truth, and it's still not great, but it's not bad. I don't want to upgrade my Mac Studio to the latest beta because betas are bad. They start with the B word, and it's just not a great idea if that's going to be your main computer you're using every day to run a beta piece of software on it, because it's probably just going to break. I mean, beta means it's not done. And usually, iOS will come out in September. I know, I totally agree with you, bud. Don't do it. I totally agree, right? Here's the whole thing. We know this for a fact. iOS will always ship in September. So the next version of iOS will come out middle of September. It's been like that since I've started iOS development, and I've been there since the beginning. I'm really old. So yeah, iOS almost always comes out like September 14th or September 15th, something like that. macOS is always behind at least a month, if not 2 months, which means if you're running macOS and you're running the beta, you're running that until like October before you get a final release. It's now June. That's a long haul of like bugs and other things. Now, if you have a separate machine or a virtual machine, you want to run it there, that's great. I mean, go for it, man. More power to you. But to run on your main machine is just chaos. So that's what I'm doing here. I've got it running on my spare laptop that I kind of use. I want to use for streaming, like some beta stuff, and especially the Vision Pro stuff I think is super badass awesome. Because we should be able to get like this running on just by running the emulator, right? I mean, it should be nothing more than that. In fact, I have the emulator installed. I haven't done it yet, and I don't see it from, let's see here, manage run destinations. Let's see if we can find the emulator. Maybe I have to add it. Simulators, let's see here. We have the Apple TV, Vision Pro, here we are. Yeah, okay, so how do we add this then? I have it. I have the simulator. Let's see here. So I definitely got the simulator installed, it looks like, because I can see it here. And I know that when I installed it, it asked me to install it. So let me go to the expense reporter here and I don't see it in the, I think I remember reading about this. I thought you have to change the package to say that, yeah, you have to add it as a platform. That's what's going on here. So that's what's going on. So in order to play around with the Vision Pro, you have to add it as a platform that you can target. And so once you do, ooh, look at this. Update, let's talk about updated to accommodate the new destination. Platform filters. Oh no. Ooh. This will probably be a problem. Houston, we have a problem. The problem is GitHub. Oh, let's see here. Couchbase-lite. Lite, iOS, GitHub. See, the problem's going to be is this. I'm almost positive. Crap, 1 second here. I've got to sign in. Oh, that's great. I can't. Let me turn this on to the other screen real quick here, so I can enter in a password here, so you can't see it. Now it needs authenticator code. Stupid single sign-on. All this multi-factor crap. Let's see here. Where's work? Why does it keep asking me for this? I logged in before. So, yeah, I can switch back to the stream now. 1 second here. Let me go back to the Pro Capture here. So, the issue is going to be is that 310, I believe, is only targeted to iOS and Mac and Apple TV. I don't think it's targeted to watchOS or to Vision Pro. So what we should be able to do, let's close that out. Actually, what we should be able to do, oh, go away. We should be able to go to docs.couchbase.com. I want to test this because this may be an issue. And I don't know if I can work around it or not. I want couchbase-lite 3.1 and I want Swift. And what this will do, if we go to getting started here, this should give us the link to Switch Package Manager. And we want Swift Package Manager here, right? It should say right here. And this is always the terrible way of doing it. It's like, wait, why are you giving me like this file? This is what you want to do here. This is the real way. Copy the link and then throw it into your app. And let's see what happens here. So let's go to Xcode here real quick and see if I can add that package and see what happens. Let's cancel that for right now. And let me add the package in first. So let's see here. Expense report, package dependencies. Let's add a package dependency in. And let's search for, let's add a new location. Oh, I don't think I want that. Add a source code account. Okay. Well, that's definitely not what I want. Huh. Can I just search for couchbase-lite here? Yeah, I don't think that works like that. I think I have to add in the, it's been a while since I've done this. Let me try this. Let me try without the, nope. So that's not it. This used to be, I did this on the ice cream thing, and this wasn't that bad. What's docs say to do? You shouldn't have to make the XML file. That's garbage. I'm almost positive you don't have to do that, because I didn't do that with the ice cream when I did the ice cream method here. So let's see here. You shouldn't have to do any of this. That's all just super hard work. What's it say here? Use switch suspension to the Xcode and 12 above. Yeah, I know that. But include in your app. Yeah, here we go. I'm in here. Okay. So packages. I think this UI's changed because it's saying here to go into the app, which I am, Swift packages, add a package. We'll go back here and take a look here. Pretty sure this UI's changed. I don't think this works like they're saying it works. So let's go out of here, cancel. I was right there. I clicked here, and this is the new UI we get. Do I just put the UI? Oh, I guess you just put it into the search box there. Okay. I feel stupid now. All right, let's see here. So this should automatically. No, why did it do that? Go back to Swift. Xcode just bombed on me. It's this is what happens when you have betas, right? Xcode literally just bombed on me. Let's try this a second time, or a third time's a charm, right? So let's go back here. So here we go. We've got it. We want couchbase-lite. You can see that some of the. Wow. Okay. Hello beta. Man. Trying to add Swift package in scrolling description. That looks like a memory leak. Let's see what's going on here. Yep. So that's probably a web view, a UI web view, or I don't know what they call web views in, maybe there's web view in SwiftUI, but in native or in UI kit or app kit, it's called a web view. And so I bet you that's what's going on, that they have a leak. Yeah, right here, WebKit, you can see here, they're trying to refresh the display when it bombs out after scrolling. Okay, well, let's not scroll that this time because that looks like that's the bug. So let's see here. So when you add a package, don't scroll the description because at least for me, it's crashing. So let's go ahead and just add it here without scrolling. So that should be it. There should be the description. You can see here there's some UI problems already because this is supposed to be doing, that's the MB file. It's supposed to be rendering that and it's not rendering it right. And let's go to up to the next major version. We're going to say as long as it's 3.10 should be fine. Let's go ahead and add the package and see what happens. Now, what should be interesting is this should be based on the build targets that they built couchbase-lite on. So this is going to be for anything for Vision Pro, right? If you add a package, yeah, we're going to add this package, man. Let's add it. All right, we should have the package. There it is, right? So now the problem is that if this doesn't have the target of for Vision Pro's hardware, you should be able to add a package. Now, my understanding is that's only if you want like unique Vision Pro stuff. I think it still will run all SwiftUI applications regardless of how it's compiled. But now what I'm curious on is if I go into the target and if I add in Vision Pro, if that's going to work. So let's go in here and add Vision Pro and say I want Vision, and I'm going to enable it. It's not crashing. I mean, okay. I'm pleasantly surprised and happy here. Let's go to app category. This will be business. And display name, CBL expense reporter. Version 1 sounds great. Do we really want to go allowed portrait versus landscape? We'll figure that out in a little bit here. That always gets BS. I'm not going to worry about app icons and stuff just yet. Because we're just playing around with this. So let's go ahead and click out of here and see if I can select the Vision Pro now and see whether or not the Vision Pro simulator works. So let's go ahead and play on this and see what happens. Build failed. That's what I thought. That's what's going to happen. So the problem is couchbase-lite wasn't compiled for bindings for Vision OS. And so because of that, we're not going to work with Vision OS. That is a bummer. And that's what's going to happen when you have hardware packages. And I don't even know how Vision OS is going to handle the disk because Swift. couchbase-lite is a mobile database that runs on the disk on the device itself, right? And so that means you have to have disk I/O access. And so I'll give you an example of where like SQLite, couchbase-lite, these kind of databases have problems as Apple TV. Now, Apple TV, you have a limited amount of disk space that you can use in disk I/O. And that kind of makes sense because it's a very small, embedded box and it doesn't have a lot of disk space on it. So when it first came out, you only could have 250 megabytes for the entire application. That's all of its assets, everything to go onto the device. Well, this became a problem if you wanted to have a mobile database embedded into the device because it was going to limit the amount of I/O and the database size that you had. And so because of that, a lot of database platforms, it was really tricky to try to get working with Apple TV. And I don't even think to this day, I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure we don't target it. We can find out very quickly whether or not we target that or not. Let's go back into our code here and we'll change our destination, right? So if we go into here, we go to our targets and we remove, obviously this is not working. And so let's see here, let's remove this. Let's remove this, but let's add Apple TV instead. We'll say we'll enable that as a destination, tvOS. And now what should happen is if I build for my Mac, it continue to work, because if you're building for your Mac, that's a target. And I know for a fact that couchbase-lite has been compiled for Mac OS, and there it is. We have Mac OS working without problems, right? That should be a non-shocker to me. I'm totally expecting that to work. But what should be pretty interesting is if I go to like Apple TV 4K here, I don't think this build target, couchbase-lite works for this build target. And you'll see the same thing happen, right? Because of the fact that the build target's not there. This is something I'd have to talk to the development team that makes Couchbase-lite. I work at Couchbase, spoiler alert here. And so I'd have to talk to the development team, but I was pretty sure that was the case, is that we don't support Apple TV as a target. And so because of that ain't going to work. Now, we do support iPhone, iPad, and Mac. So if I were to switch my target over to an iPad, for example, this should run without problems. And let's go to iPad mini, because that's usually got a smaller screen. It's easier to see the simulator. And we should build, and that should work. And that did work, right? So now we know that when we set up projects, one of the problems we're going to have is that if we add the package dependency in, but your package dependencies, if they're not supporting the hardware you're trying to run on, you ain't going to work. I mean, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So wait, I thought I selected iPad mini here. Let's go back to iPad mini and try to get this to run. Wait, oh, it is, but it's launching on iPhone? Wait, I didn't. Did I tell it to do that? No, I didn't tell it to launch on the iPhone. I thought I told it to iPad mini. Yeah, it's running there on the iPhone, but let's go back to iPad mini. iPad mini. Boy, this beta. These betas, folks. Yeah, I'd like to replace it. Don't ask again. Wait, what's going on here? Are we running like more than one simulator? What's going on here? Where's my... Oh. There's the simulator. Okay, it's starting up it now. All right, so I got 2 simulators. Ooh, whoa. All right. Let's see if it runs on the iPad mini. That works. Perfect. All right, awesome. Hey, Compile Swift. How you doing? We're just we're playing around a little bit with the latest beta of Xcode tonight. I'm going to start streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we're going to be working on a SwiftUI application. And so I'm just trying to make sure that the environment works. I'm actually capturing video from a MacBook Pro over to a Mac Studio, and the reason for that is I didn't want to upgrade my Mac Studio to the latest beta of the Mac OS 14 and the latest Xcode. No, it's not doing good actually. It bombed on me a couple times adding a Swift package in. I just tried to scroll the text and Xcode just bombed out, which is really great, right? That there's nothing better than when the ID just says, no, I don't think so. It's also weird. Like I selected the iPad mini to tell it I want to compile on and debug, but then it switched back to the iPhone, even though I didn't tell it to. So the beta seems to be beta. But let me tell you, I still think this is better than the old Swift or the old Xcode betas, because man, back in like Xcode 5 and 6 beta land, it was pretty rough. I used to try to run it back then on a VMware, like a VMware virtual machine, and that used to kind of sort of work, but you wouldn't have any video, hardware rendering, and so macOS is so heavy on video that to draw the screen, it would just be like tearing, and it was really slow and not great. So I don't recommend running macOS in a virtual machine like in Parallels if you can. It is awesome. I mean, if you want to get day one support for your stuff, right? You know, hey, if you're going to ship an app day one that macOS, the latest version of macOS or iOS ships, you kind of have to run the betas, right? I mean, there's just no way around it. If you're trying to get on that device day one and you want to have those new features and stuff. I used to work at a big enterprise company, and we did mobile development. So as a tech lead at EY, big accounting firm, we did a lot of mobile development there. And it was always hard to, like, all these employees would come in day one with their new iPhone, and if that app didn't run day one, they're really mad, because it's like Christmas morning. You walk down to the Christmas tree, no presents. It's like, hey, I got my new iPhone. I'm going to download your app so I can use my work app. And wait, it doesn't work. That kind of sucks. That is not awesome. So day one support for new iPhones when people are shelling out like over $1,000 for their iPhone is kind of important. And we used to always try to make sure we had new hardware support. Like if they had some kind of new feature, we tried to get like some kind of buzz support for it. This is always like the hardest thing to do. Let me tell you, it's not fun. I can remember iOS 10, or between 9 and 10, they changed the camera and the way permissions worked and stuff. And man, I spent a couple weekends getting all that straightened out to the point where the camera support would work for one of the apps that we had. And it was not fun. And it was tickets opened with Apple, and then the beta had a bug. And we weren't sure if it was our code or if it was the beta. Yeah. Oh, hey man. Yeah. Thanks. I didn't realize you did that. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for throwing the chat out there. So yeah, the betas are cool, and you kind of have to go down this road if you want day one support. But it's also like super hard because you just don't know: is it my code or is it a bug? And Apple's awesome; they're pretty great, but they're human. The people that make this are human. They got bugs too, right? And so it's super hard to try to figure out, is this something that I'm doing or is it they're doing? And that's where you almost have to have like a developer account. You have to be able to put tickets in with Apple and be able to kind of track that and see what's going on. So I'm trying to test the waters a little bit here also. I've got Couchbase-lite, which is, I work for a database company. We make mobile databases. Couchbase-lite's the database we make. And I want to try to get a mobile app up and running with this mobile database and stuff. So that's what we're going to start doing on the stream stuff in here. I've done it with Android 100 times over Sunday. Android's pretty easy. I am pretty good with Kotlin. Swift, I haven't done, I'll be honest with you, in about, it's almost been about 7 months since I've touched Swift. So it's this is going to be a little bit of fun. I've got another app I wrote that uses Combine, and I'm a big fan of that. I like patterns. Things that you can just repeat and you know it's going to work is pretty great. So I'm thinking about using a Combine. I'm kind of curious if anybody has used Combine out there, if they think that this is I think of it like over in Android land, we use a lot of times, we use repositories, we use V models and views and MVVM's a pretty big, strong pattern over there. And usually you're using like Coin, it's called. That's what you use for dependency injection. These are just patterns that people use for building Android applications. Really, really popular a way of doing it. Over in Swift, I've never really got a great feeling that people use Combine. I know that for a long time people were using RX Swift, Reactive Swift, and that was like super popular. In fact, I can remember if you went for a job interview for Swift, if you didn't know RX Swift, there's a chance you may not get it. I think that's changed in the last couple of years. I think with SwiftUI, I'm hoping that's changed a little bit. There's nothing wrong with RX Swift. I think it's a perfectly fine package. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great framework, a great way to build Swift applications, but it shouldn't be like required. You can learn it. It's not hard. It's if you ask me, I think SwiftUI kind of brings that game to it. Combine's kind of nice. When you're trying to figure out states, right? This is where Combine kind of starts. I'll give you an example here. So here's what I want to build. I need an authentication window, right? And so I'm an enterprise mobile developer. So a lot of times, if I'm going to pass an InfoSec review, InfoSec is like the security people that review your code and say whether or not you're secure. There's this big rule that means you can't get into the real application unless you can prove the identity of the person. And this is a pretty big no-no in the application. So a lot of times you'll have like the main authentication window. That's going to be a view. And that view actually is going to be a block, like a wall. And if you get past that view, then we get your identity, then we're going to bring you to a totally different application. And that application is where you have all your navigation controllers or your navigation views and your navigation stack and all your windows and all that stuff. But you don't ever want anybody to see that stuff unless you can get past the authentication page. So the authentication page is a hard wall in front of it. You don't even want the ability to hit like backwards and go back to that page because it's a place that they have to stay. And if they log out, they need to go back there, right? And so usually what ends up happening is that you want to have some kind of authentication service that does the authentication. And this is where Combine kind of kicks in, right? And so what you could do is you could make a Combine. You could just basically make it so that you listen for a message from the authentication service. So on the authentication window, we're going to type in our username and password, whatever that is. And we're going to click an authentication button, and it goes to this authentication service that says, hey, I've got a username and password. I don't know what to do with these, right? That's not my job to do this. And then that service goes through and does a bunch of work. Maybe it calls an API. We don't really, it doesn't matter what it does to my UI. My UI shouldn't give two craps of that, right? But once that job's done and it comes back and it says it's cool, then that's where the world's going to change for us. That's when we're going to basically go back to the application, and we should get a message on that. And the message should say, hey, this person's cool. Well, if it's cool, then our main window needs to swap out. It needs to go, hey, no, I'm going to go over here instead. This is this real application that they need to go see. Let's bring in some navigation and throw them the real UI. Now, of course, if it says, no, this person's a jerk, they didn't type their password in right, then we give them a message on the screen that says, hey, you didn't type your password in right. Or you're trying to break in. We're not going to let you in. Maybe after 5 tries, you just basically don't even let them try again. We literally had that as a rule where you got like 5 tries and then we had to lock the application out for a period of time. And then there's all these things where InfoSec's going in, well, if I change the time zone, you have to time them out for 5 hours, right? And then you're like, you have to calculate that out regardless of the time zone, because somebody's going to go on their phone and turn off the automatic syncing of time, and they're going to put their phone in the future. And InfoSec's going to test for all that crap, which I think is absolutely stupid. But in enterprise, they try to do all these kind of things to try to figure out things. They'll try to put their time in the future to see if the token, the authentication token expires. I've been through all this kind of chaos before. Let me tell you, folks. So there's all these kind of rules and stuff that you usually try to have in your application to guarantee you have all these security stuff going on. Now, of course, if you're just building an example, you don't necessarily need all that security. We can get away with doing some pretty easy stuff. We can just embed the username and passwords in a service just to get started and to test out and mock it out and then eventually replace that with something else. I'm a big fan of using identity providers like Auth0 or, Azure AD. I don't want to do the security, to tell you the truth. I'd rather blame somebody else. So let Auth0 do the security, and if it's screwed up, let them deal with it. And that way, if something breaks, it's not my fault. It's this vendor over here that we use for authentication's fault. Pass the buck. Anytime. In enterprise development, this is really kind of a good thing to do. Don't put your career on the line of like the password box getting broken or something like that. And most enterprise companies have some kind of authentication provider, right? They're going to have Auth0. They're going to have Azure AD or Google, authentication, or Facebook authentication if you're doing, App Store, or even I don't think Twitter's authentication thing that people use anymore, right? Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, man. They overlook wrapping the APIs with Auth, and then everything's wide open, and then you have all these kind of problems. Man, I'm telling you, mobile development's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I think it's pretty badass. I think it's way more fun than doing web development, let me tell you, or even like desktop development. That's kind of like doing Java or Windows desktop development's not fun, but Swift is pretty great. Mobile development's a lot of fun, but man, it's all the enterprise stuff can kind of be a bummer sometimes. It's just a lot of things it takes away from like just building the application for the user. So all the stuff that the user never sees, but and they don't even know exists. They just want the application to work, right? That's the real problem. A user doesn't know that there's like all this work that went into security, guarantee this app's working right. They just want to log into the app, do their job. Like an expense reporter, think about it. You just want to make your expense report, put your money in, get paid for it, and then get out of the app. You're not there to do anything else but that. And so the app needs to do just that. It needs to do it well, but at the same time, if you're putting expenses in, you can't just leak that data out, especially if you have like credit card information or stuff like that, or receipts that you're tracking. I mean, all that stuff is personal information that you don't want to get out on the internet and stuff. So you also have to think about the security behind all this stuff and make sure that it's secured. I do like Swift. Our database, at least the enterprise version, there's a free and an enterprise version. Our enterprise version offers database encryption. Now, of course, in iOS, as long you have encryption, but most people don't know this. Here's a fun fact for you. If you got your iPhone, if you do not put a pin in your iPhone, the disk is not encrypted. And so users that are like, first, don't have an iPhone and don't put a pin in it. Are you kidding me? That's like crazy. Someone steals your phone, they have all your crap, right? Put a pin in your iPhone. My mom, my mom's old, right? She's in her 60s or 70s, something like that. But she didn't put a pin in her iPhone at first, and I got her iPhone. She was asking for help set up, and I'm like, what are you doing? You got to put a pin on this. I don't want to remember a password. I'm like, are you kidding me? If you lose your iPhone, they're just going to steal everything on your phone. You just gave them a free phone. They can just reset it. You got to put a pin in. If you don't put a pin in, the encryption doesn't work, because the encryption key for all applications is based on your pin that you put in. That's your personal, we'll say for lack of technical terms, the salt for your encryption for all the applications. And so that's really kind of important that you put a pin in. But that's how our database works then, right? We encrypt databases. So you get dual encryption, which may or may not be good depending on what you want, right? Because if you think about it, the operating system app layer container is going to be encrypted already. And then we're going to add database encryption onto a file system database on top of it, like a SQLite or a couchbase-lite database that you're now encrypting that file. So you're doing 2 levels of encryption. Is there a performance loss on this? Yes, absolutely. There's a performance loss on this, but is it bad? About 1%. Most users could never notice it. If you're on an iPhone and you have anything in the last 10 years not 10 years, I would say if you have an iPhone X or higher, and I know we're going pretty far back because I think this is the iPhone 14, right? So if we go back 5 generations of phones, not a single one of those phones is going to have a problem with database encryption through any platform, whether you're using SQLite, you're using Core Data, you're using Realm, whoever's database you're using, Firebase. If you have encryption on that, you're never going to notice it because the disk and the phone processors are just fast enough. In Android land, this is a totally different conversation. Database encryption on a cheap Chinese phone. I'm not trying to make fun of those, but they're super cheap. Like I always keep this around. This is a Samsung Galaxy throwaway burner phone. It was like $80. It's like an A series, I think they're called, and they're like super cheap. This Samsung phone costs like $80. Literally, you can just go buy it from like a Best Buy or something like that. This phone is the slowest phone you're ever going to use. Now on here, doing database encryption is ridiculously slow. If I enable database encryption on this, I notice it. The app literally slows down. It's about 15% slower because the disk on this, the memory chips on this are already super slow. It's an $80 phone. You can't expect it to run fast. So for iOS development, it's awesome because all the hardware Apple ships is really great. So you never have to worry about performance. For the most part, it's a pretty clear sky unless you're doing game development. Then you do have to worry about performance. But in Android land, if you're doing like enterprise development, it's kind of chaos. And there's a lot of crap with like hardware and this and that going on, which isn't kind of fun. So I was saying here that we're going to try to get a SwiftUI application up and running here. We should probably try to do that, right? We should probably just do a little bit of coding here and see what we got going on here. So I'm trying to think here. I probably want to get like some kind of authenticator running is what I'm thinking in order to get things up and running. Now, one thing I wanted to try installing while we're here, now I think about it, is that I don't know if you guys heard of this new plugin. It's called Copilot for Xcode. And I'm going to grab this, and I should be able to open this over here. Let's see here. And this is pretty cool. So let me kind of so I actually took the URL from my Mac Studio because of universal control. I can copy and paste between my 2 Macs without problems. This is another. Apple is super awesome. You can't do that between 2 Windows boxes, not without some kind of third-party software. I'm telling you, that's pretty badass. So this thing right here is GitHub-copilot for Xcode. It's literally a plugin that allows you to use ChatGPT and Copilot with Xcode, which is pretty badass awesome. So we're actually going to do that. We're going to go ahead and install this. So I'm going to go to install setup. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we're going to try it. I have it working on Xcode, the non-beta, the last release. What is this, Xcode 14? I'm losing track of versions here, folks. I've got Xcode 14.3.1, and I have this plugin work without problem on my studio. We're trying to see if it works in the beta 14 here. So let me open Warp. Now, if you haven't used Warp yet, go find that and download that, by the way. So this is like a terminal that's got some AI knowledge in it. It's pretty amazing, to tell you the truth. I have nothing but unbelievable, amazing things I can say about Warp. SwiftUI expense reporter. So it's got like this AI engine built into it. It like knows everything about your Git repository and stuff. It's just like, wow, where has this been all my life? And I used to use iTerm for a while. This is so much better than that. So we're going to see if Brew will install the Copilot for Xcode plugin and see if it works. The source code's available. I have a feeling that I can probably download it, change the target, and get it to compile. This is Warp is amazing, dude. You got to go get that. Let me tell you, this is a life-changing event for you. If you get your, depending on, like, there's what the hell is it called? So there's Oh My ZSSH is one of the famous like prompts that you can get for working for it. There's another one called I think it's called is it called spacecraft or pilot, or I don't remember the name of this prompt, but there's a prompt that you can get now for this, that when you use it with warp and stuff, it works pretty well. It changes all the icons for your Git repo and stuff and makes them look all cute and stuff, which I don't mind. It's kind of nice to know like where your Git repo is and stuff. So let me go into expense reporter here, and you should be able to see what I'm talking about here. So let's see here. You'll see here that like I'm in the main branch. It knows about that. It knows I'm in my Git main branch. It knows that there's how many revisions they are. It knows if I've changed code or not. All those kind of things it kind of knows about. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so you use Oh My SHH or whatever it's called. Yeah, that's pretty great. There's another one out there. Oh man, what the heck was that called? I can tell that I spent way too much time getting it set up, but I saw a video on it on YouTube. I was like, okay, that looks pretty cool. I should probably figure out how to get that working. And then it was like, you know, just like any of those YouTube videos, you're like spending an hour getting it working, and you're like, oh great, I have different icons now. Was this really worth all of that? I don't know, maybe. What the heck? I have it open here. What is the called over here? Let's see. Vim ZSH envir. Is this it? No. Vim Z profile. Yeah. What's it called? Starship is the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. So yeah, there's a. Takes a while to find this stuff. Yeah, so this is a crash shell prompt. It's pretty easy. You install with Homebrew, and the minute that you get it, you put nerdfront and stuff, and it's kind of like ZSH, but like on steroids, I would say. It allows you to have all these cutesy, weird like icons in your prompts, and it has like a kind of like Warp. It has a bunch of like depending on what program you're in, it will change the prompt. So it's smart enough to know that you're in like a repo versus maybe you're in like a Rust project. So it may add some like stuff for Rust and stuff. It's pretty cool, Starship, to say the least. I thought it was pretty neat. Don't have it installed on this machine because I literally just got this machine up and running. So I think this is just bare bones of what's going on here. But before I got distracted because I'm like a cat, I was trying to get the Copilot plugin working. Let's see if that works, actually. Because that's one of the things the point of this stream was also to see, like, I know how well AI works with like VS Code. I know how well it works with like Android development. It's pretty good, the Copilot plugin. But what I don't know the answer to is Xcode. And so that's one thing I'm kind of wanting to try out to see what happens. Like, how well does this thing actually work, or will it work? So this is the program right here. It's called Copilot for Xcode. And there's a bunch of stuff you have to do. So I'm going to tell it to automatically check, and then you have to open system settings, and there's a bunch of stuff you have to turn on. And I'm going to put my finger here so that it allows it. There's more than just this, though. So not only do you have to set it up here, but under General, you have to go into the extensions and install it there also. And I have to remember how to do this now. It's not here. It's somewhere else that you also have to do it for extensions. Here it is. Extensions. Yeah, here are. So see the Xcode extensions here? So you have to enable in the Xcode extensions to get this plugin working. If you don't enable the Xcode extensions, it just simply doesn't work. And you do have to close and start Xcode again to get all this magic to work. But I'm going to check automatically here. I'm going to automatically check for updates. That button's not working in the beta. That's not cool. All right. We are going to, instead of... let me check my Mac Studio. I have this set up on there. I want to make sure I have the same settings. So I have fixed to the bottom in dark. Let's go into service and see what I've got going on here. Because I tweak this quite a bit. Node. I think I had to... Let's get that installed. And then I think what had to happen is I had to make sure that... Let me get back to Warp here and see. Oh, I'm having universal control issues where it's not getting my mouse here. Let's do brew install node. I know you have to have Node installed also for to make all this work. Node is like the web server crap that they use for web development. If you're a big web developer, but I think I need Node installed because I want to say this runs as that. And so what I think I'm just gonna enable Copilot, and I think I'm just gonna ChatGPT. You have to have an account open for it, and that kind of is not great because it's not only do you have to pay for the account, but you have to get an API key for it. And I'm on the waiting list for it, but they haven't enabled it yet, so that's not a cool thing here. Let's see here. I need to. I do want floating. Do I want floating widget? Floating widget Copilot, real-time suggestions. This is all, and I did this 16 because we're streaming, and I don't want to hide spaces. And then I think the only other thing I have to do is I have to get this so that it authenticates. Oh, it didn't install the language server because I didn't have Node installed. Duh, that's what's going on here. Let me close and restart it. That would make sense because I didn't have Node installed. Of course, it can't go through to get the authentication stuff working. Ruby and Mac scripts for managing things like Node and Ruby made it super easy. Huh. Interesting. I don't think I've ever used Ruby and Mac script. Huh. I'll have to try that out. Thanks for the suggestion. That's something I'm going to have to look into here. Let's try Copilot again and see if Copilot will now, under service, it should give me a sign-in button here. Here we go. All right. And then when we sign in, it should give me a whole device activation code thing here. So let's see here. This is where I need to... All right, let me switch screens here so I can type this code in. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but probably should show you guys my password. Let's switch over to the studio while I get this working real quick here. And let's go back to Copilot here, copy this. Oh, that ain't gonna work, that's great. Let me see if I can get this. And what's the other part of this code that it wants? And that should get device authentication working. Authorize Copilot, and that's fine. Let's see if it actually worked now, and I'll switch back. Let's go confirm sign in. Okay, we're cool. Let me switch back. So basically all that happens is, let me go back to the Mac Pro Capture. You sign in, it gives you a code to basically type in. And once you type in that code, hey, welcome Cactus. I'm setting up the Copilot for Xcode, the GitHub Copilot plugin, to see whether or not we can get it working on my Mac. This is running Xcode beta, so we're on the latest beta in the latest beta OS. So this is Mac OS 14.0. We're flying really close to the sun here, trying to try it out with the latest Xcode beta, which I think I just updated a couple nights ago. So this is beta 2. Which I don't know is whether or not the Copilot plugin is going to work with it. So I've authenticated to the Copilot plugin to my GitHub account, and that has Copilot enabled on it. And so by theory here, we should get suggestions on how to do certain things, which is pretty cool. I'm going to keep it a floating widget, custom commands and stuff, and you can get this from a GitHub repo. So if you just go Google search for Copilot for Xcode, or I'll throw the link in chat real quick here. Let's see here. This is where you want to go. I'll throw that in chat for anybody that's interested in it. It's pretty cool. If you're looking to get into AI, see how like AI can help you in your Xcode. I've used it a lot, quite honestly. Not in Xcode, but I've used it in like VS Code, Visual Studio Code, and in Android Studio. Use it all the freaking time, and it's pretty amazing. For Xcode, it kind of is slow. That's the one thing I'll say. So let me close Xcode real quick here, because I know that we have to have it completely closed out for the extension to, at least last time I used this, I had to have it completely closed and then open back up. And so if I go back into Expense Reporter, what should happen, and I say should, is we should get a new option as soon as we get some code open here. So let's go to the app itself, right? This should be our main window here. And what we should get is under the editor options, we have Copilot now. And this is pretty cool. So it should be automatically enabled, Copilot. And if we're doing this right, if we type in a couple lines, or we type in some stuff, it will automatically start suggesting something. So let's do that, for example, right? So we're going to say here we want another function, authenticate. And I'm just going to leave it hang out. And you'll see here, it basically tried to complete the typing for me. It's saying, hey, I think this is what you want. You want this authenticate function, right? Now, of course, I don't have anything in my view to actually do authentication here. So you're going to see here that now it's saying, hey, this is probably what you want to do. You probably want to have some kind of like authentication class and then tell it to authenticate. So it's actually pretty cool when it works. Now, I haven't given Copilot enough information to be successful here because I don't have anything on the screen, right? And so this authenticate function really isn't going to work because it doesn't know what to give me because I don't have anything. I have a Hello World app right now. And that's probably not going to work, right? We just have this content view. And let's turn off Canvas because we don't need to see Canvas right now. Let's turn that off so all we see is our code. So that's not going to work, right? So what we probably need to do is we probably need... we were talking about it earlier. We probably want to have a wall, right? Let's get a wall going up so that we guarantee that when we look at it, we're going to say, hey, we're either going to have you're not authenticated or you are authenticated and you're going to go to this happy place in the world. So the way to do that, the way I know how to do it is to we'll make a new view. We'll call that authenticate view. So let's go to new file and let's go ahead and just make a SwiftUI view. Let's go next. Actually, do we have to still do it in iOS or can we just do it I'm assuming that if you select it now in iOS, it does multi-platform when you select the SwiftUI view. I have to assume that, right? We'll call this the authentication view. And now we have an authenticated view, right? And so let's swap out our expense reporter app to show the authentication view instead. So we're going to say authentication view, and we'll fix this in a little bit with Combine, right? But for right now, we'll make some assumptions that we're just going to go to the authentication view first, and then if we can get the authentication view up and running, and they enter password and username properly, then we can move over to the content view. That's probably the easiest way to do that. So authentication view, we have a hello world. Let's just go ahead and compile this real quick and make sure this works. Build successful. That's always a good sign, right? Let's see what happens on the iPad mini and see if it works. I also want to get 3-pane content working, which can be sometimes painful. Let's see here. So I got hello world. So that's perfect. That worked. Well, okay. So let's see here. Let's see if we can get to give us a username and password box. Oh, let's see here. It's already given us an idea here. It says that we should do a VStack for doing a globe with a Hello World app. So it's just doing that because it says, hey, you don't have anything. Maybe you should do this instead. We'll do a VStack. I think that a VStack is probably a pretty good idea here. So we're coding with assistance from AI here already. So it's saying here, but we need a username box. So let's go text. Let's say, I wonder if I can ask it for a username. Let's see here. Let's go to Copilot and get suggestions. So here, no, but I want it to, I know this works with ChatGPT. I can ask it. See, if I open chat, that's going to be the ChatGPT. And I know that for a fact that this is going to go in and try to do ChatGPT, and then it's going to fail because of the fact that I don't have ChatGPT, the API open to it. But we could open ChatGPT in a window and see what ChatGPT says to do. So we're kind of curious on AI. Let's do that real quick here. Let me switch streams so I can, I'm going to switch over to my Mac Pro just so I can, or my Mac Studio just so I can log in real quick here. Give me 2 seconds here. Chat, openai.com. Let me just log in real quick here. And let's just go with this. It's going to ask me for a username and password. Now, the reason why ChatGPT is not great is that its model is old. That's what everybody keeps saying, right? That the model that it knows like view code off of ChatGPT is from 2002. I think September 2002, if I remember right. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a new chat here. You can see here I already have one over here, but let's just do it again. We're gonna say generate me a SwiftUI login view that has a username, password, a username box, text box, a password text box, a secure password, secure text box, and an authentication and a sign-in button. We'll start with the basics. If you ask ChatGPT for too much, it seems like it does everything wrong. If I say, also make me a Combine authentication service that goes through authentication to user and stuff, it always seems like it goes crazy for me. So I always try to ask it small questions. It seems like if you do a bunch of small ones, it does it pretty well. And you can see here from my history, you can see over on the left, I ask it for a lot of stuff. And it does stuff for me pretty darn well. Let's go through and see what happens with it. And I'm using ChatGPT 4. That's also to say it's a newer model that has more information. So we're going to see here what it comes up with. So far, if we take a look here, it's telling us pretty decent information. It's even giving us the preview. Okay, let's see here. Boy, you're very talky, ChatGPT tonight. Let's see here. Let's take a look here at what we got. So we're basically we're inheriting from a view. That makes sense. We're taking a state of username and password. We'll probably want to modify this eventually to send that over to, like I said, to an authentication service. But this isn't that bad, right? So let's go ahead and let's just copy this. Let's see if we can get it to compile, see if it works. We'll probably have to tweak a little bit of the UI and stuff, but let's see how far we get with this. Let's go back to Xcode and just paste that in and see what happens. So if we see here, now I don't remember if I did a VStack or not. Let's see here. Let's close out the conversation window. And I don't remember if I grabbed the body. Let's just paste in here and see what, I don't remember what I grabbed at this point in time. So I did grab body. So let's just go ahead and close this out. Get this back. And I think it's under, I don't remember the keyboard shortcut to tell it to re-indent. Yeah, that's supposed to actually clean it up. Why is it not auto-linting for me? I don't think I have it set up to auto-lint, which will probably drive me crazy long term. But this is a beta. See, all this should be spaced back. So, but let's open up Canvas and see what it draws. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I said open up Canvas, Aaron, not open up a new window. Let's open up Canvas and see. Oh, I didn't grab the previewer. That's what's going on here. Oh, no, well, the previewer is there. Oh, it's using macros. That's right. Oh, Control-I. Thank you, sir. Let's try Control-I. See if that worked. Control-I. There it goes. Oh, it's only one line. Do Control-A, Control-I. Did that work? That looks like it worked. Oh, thank you, sir. That was awesome. I think there's a way that you can auto-tell to do that. May have to select all first. Yep, you were right on that. I haven't reset up my Xcode. This is I just literally set this up last night with the beta to try to get it so I could try streaming and see what happens. So let's see here. We got the preview running here. Let's see. So this isn't bad, right? Now the login window like this is. I don't like the text boxes be that far out. We probably would throw this like a container in it or try to make this like 80% right. But I mean, honestly, just out of the bat, it's not bad. Actually, rather than me fix this, let's see if ChatGPT will fix this because it's our AI overload, right? I mean, why am I doing this work when ChatGPT should be doing all this work? I'll just tell the truth. I don't like the username and password box taking up the full screen. Can you change the code? Well, we'll put a period there. Let's use proper English, folks. Can you change the width to be, let's say, 80% of the screen size? Let's see what ChatGPT says. Absolutely, you can limit it using the by adding a frame to it. Well, look at ChatGPT being look at this. It's saying here. Let's see what happens. It's saying right here. So it's saying here add a frame to it, and it's saying 0.8 that would get us to 80% if you were to times that times there. Let's just go ahead and add this in and see what happens, and see whether or not we'll need that for both the secure password, right? That makes sense. Let's go back to Xcode here and see if its suggestion works the way that we want it to work. Let's also close this window so we can see more code. Sorry, let's close that so we can see more code. Get the canvas minimized a little bit so we can kind of see what we're doing here. And it said here we only have to add in 2 lines. We should add in this line here and this line here. And we can see in Canvas it's automatically updated. Look at that. That's hey, ChatGPT working for me now. AI overlords. I know that we should be nice to it. It's probably going to take over eventually. Yeah, right. I mean, right. And we had if we did it in the VStack, everything would be at the 80%, right? There's something to be said about that. But this is the problem with AI. AI is not as smart as developers, if you ask me, right? It's just scanning everything it finds in GitHub and all the other places and making suggestions based on that. Let's not be wrong, right? And the problem is ChatGPT is only going to be as good as the source it gets code from. And if the model is built off a bunch of bad code, then it's going to have bad suggestions. Or if it doesn't know the latest APIs, it's not going to give you up-to-date information. Like I have, if it was September of 2022, I don't know if it knows about async, the new async await stuff, right? I don't know if I ask it for like threading stuff, if it's going to give me like a dispatcher example, or is it going to give me like the new await syntax? We'll find that out very shortly here, right? But those are the things where the AI model is really only as good as what you're training it with. But still, I mean, if you're just trying to learn and stuff, right. If you're trying to learn, though, I mean, this is pretty badass. I have literally wrote 0 lines of code yet tonight. It is writing all the codes for me so far. We can just say, we'll put Acme like a corporation or something like this, and we'll get an Acme logo to put in here. Expense report, something like that. We'll come up with a better name for this long term, but that works, right? We're getting there. So we've got a UI that's pretty good here, right? This isn't bad. But what we need now is we need some kind of way of mocking an authentication. So we want to take this username and password. And if we, did it bind it to it? Oh, it did bind it to it. So it's bound to state automatically here, right? So we've got our bindings here. That's a good sign. Let's ask our overlords if they can make us an authentication service. But I think what we should be able to do is, I should be able to do func sign in. You'll see here, and I should be able to say, so you see here, it's automatically trying to complete the code. This is Github-copilot doing that. This is part of the plugin that I installed in the Xcode, right? So there's 2 versions of this. You can use Copilot, and Copilot's trying to read the code we already have and make some suggestions based on the code we already have, versus GitHub or ChatGPT, which is basically just I'm writing text in and saying, hey, do this thing for me. Let's go back to ChatGPT since we've been giving it this round and see whether or not we can say, okay, this looks pretty cool. I need an authentication service. So can you generate an authentication service? Well, make it a class because we need some functions, so we don't want to struct. So we'll tell it very specifically we want a class. Don't let your AI overlords have not enough information because they'll give you all kinds of crap then. So we want an authentication service class with a authenticate function that takes in a username, takes in the username and password from our view and authenticates and sends back if the username and password is correct or not. That seems like it's a good question, right? Hey, we're trying to say, hey, is this username and password correct? We'll see what it does here. Now, what I'm interested to see whether or not it'll tell us how to update our view code to actually, when the button gets clicked, to call this. Let's see what it generates, though, because I'm kind of curious. Our AI overlord's working for us here. So you'll see here that it says that it should take in a... Well, it's going really fast here because our AI overlords are probably running on some kind of cloud service that has a lot of CPU here. But it says it should take in a username and password, returns a Boolean value, right? So that's true or false, whether or not the password's correct. This is only a basic example. Ooh, getting a little saucy here already, saying it's only a basic example. It doesn't interact with a real authentication system. Okay, we get it, ChatGPT. You're just trying to mock this out. We didn't ask you for OAuth 0 or Azure AD, so I'm okay with that. Instead, it simply checks the username and password that match a pair of hard-coded values. In a real system, you replace with actual authentication logic. Sure. But we have a class here. We have with the correct username and password here, and it checks and it's true or false. This isn't necessarily bad. Let's grab this puppy and throw this in a new file and see if we can get our AI overlords to even modify the code that we have existing already for us. So let's make our view here, and we're getting a little bit... I'm going to make a new group here. We'll call this services because I do like some clean code. Let's go ahead and add in a new file, and we'll call this... this is going to be just a regular Swiss file. Click next. We'll call this authentication service. We'll take all this, pop this in, click save here. We'll put in correct username is going to be nope, that's wrong. Let's say user1 at example.com. We'll make that our password, and we'll make our password something secure. Password 12. There we go. So we've got some special characters in there. We're being secure. InfoSec won't be yelling at us too bad. Probably still be yelling at us pretty bad, but we're just testing this, right? We'll even just say user at example.com. Let's make this easy for ourselves. So we got an authentication service here. Now let's ask it to do something hard. Let's say, can you provide me new... can you update which view did it give us? It should remember everything it's giving us, right? So if we go back, we're going to say the login view to call the authentication service when the user taps the, what was it called, sign in button? Once again, we can't expect our AI overlords to know everything, so we're going to say sign in button, the button. Well, let's say button. The view to call the authentication method. Can you update the login view to call the authentication service when the user taps the button in the view to call the authentication method and send in the username and password? Let's see if our AI hey, absolutely it can do this for us. Are we going to be out of a job soon? I don't know. Let's find out. Oh, it's thinking about it here. Okay, look at this. We got some code here. Okay, let's see here. Authenticate password, sent it in. Okay. Of course, it's giving us a warning. This is a basic implementation. A real-world application, you want to have some more meaningful way of doing this, right? It's not wrong, but let's find out what it did here. So one, we know that we have a new variable. It's set into a pointer function. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and get this into our view code and see what happens. So let's close the canvas also because we're streaming here. We don't have all this screen real estate in the world here. So it's only bring up what we need here. So there we go. So we're saying this should be the authentication service. That makes sense to me so far. And then our button, we're going to need some code here. So let's go back to the ChatGPT world and see what it says to do. So you'll see here, it's saying in the action. So let's grab that. And we know that we're going to get it up to the scope definition for the actual properties of the button. So we want to grab that stuff only. And so we're going to play right here. We just have an action. So we're just going to place this action with this now. And let's see what happens here. So let's go ahead and run this and see if we have something that actually works. So we're going to say here, username. We know that was user at, I don't want, we already have a problem here, Houston. It's thinking that the first letter should be uppercase when it should be lower. So that's a property in the text box. Let's ask our AI overlords to fix this for us. Let's go back to here and say the username box. The username box is making the first letter capitalized. Capital. Oh boy. It's late for me here, folks. It's almost midnight. Capitalized. Can you update the text box for username to make the first letter lowercase? To allow. You could disable capitalization by adding capitalization to none to the text field modifier, folks. This is like Apple's documentation. This is not bad. I mean, look at this, man. I mean, it's just, it's if you're learning like SwiftUI, like here's an example, folks. I'm a UI kit guy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've done a couple things in SwiftUI, but I spent 10 years using UI kit and app kit. I know it really well. SwiftUI, I know enough to be dangerous. But here it is, just doing this for me, and I can read this and go, yeah, okay, that totally makes sense. And it even tells you up here what suggestions it's changing. It's saying, hey, only change this. So when you're like learning, this isn't bad at all, right? We're saying, hey, let's just grab this. Capitalization, I don't think anything else has changed in this code. It doesn't highlight what it changed, but according to the text it just wrote, the default is sentences, which automatically encapsulates the first character. So it's also telling you what the default is. That's pretty cool. This is like a live documentation system if you think about it, right? Because now I don't have to know how this works. I asked the documentation system. I can even pass a test now. If somebody asks me, like if I put a PR against this and somebody says, hey, why'd you do that? I'd say, well, hey, by default, sentences. Everybody knows that, right? Right? And the answer is no, I didn't know that until it told me that. ChatGPT told me that. So, I mean, here we are. We're even getting like learning things that's going on here. So let's rerun this again, see whether or not our AI overloads have given us enough information to actually make this thing work properly. So let's go ahead and go here. We'll say username, user at example.com. Example.com. And we know our password was P@SS0OD12, I think is what it was. Let's see what happens. And we got authentication failed, but that's probably because I typed in the password wrong. Let's look at our cheat sheet. What is it? It's password. I'm pretty sure I typed that in. Let's try it again. Oh, wrong thing. Let's go back here. Is there a way that lets you see the password now? I don't want to see it. I thought that maybe we'll ask our AI overlord to make a little icon that you can click on it so you can see the password. That's probably a good idea. Let's see what it printed now. Successful. All right, so I typed my password in wrong. But, you know, I'll take that back. I really would like that option to be able to see my password I'm typing in because I didn't know what else typed in, right? Most users are going to be like that. They're going to be like, where's my see password button? Let's ask our AI overlords. Can it do that? Can you update the password box to allow a button for the user to see what password they are typing in? If they tap the button, it should show what they are typing. And if they tap the button again, it should go back to hiding the password. we're choose your own adventure in it here, folks. We're choosing this to see whether or not our AI overlords are smart enough to tell us how to make the little the eyeglass icon show up. The show hide button. All right, so it is saying you can add a show hide button in the secure password field. So this is how you can add the functionality. Oh, so it's going to modify state that is password visible. That makes sense to me so far, right? And if we take a look in here, it's going to make a horizontal stack and probably with a little icon. And let's see here. Let's see what, it's hard to read what code it's doing here. Let's grab the, let's grab this is password state here because we know we're going to need that. Let's go back to authentication view now. I'm not 100% convinced it did this one right. I should have told it to use the icon, the system icons, and I should have told it to use like the eye icon. This is once again the code it generates is only as good as the question you're asking. But let's go ahead and just add this H horizontal stack in and see what this horizontal stack is going to generate for us. Because it's really hard to see in Chrome. Let's also minimize this so we can see maximum code so we can see here what it's doing. So we know that this is our password box here that we want to replace. So it's saying if password visible, text field password, otherwise secure password, but where's the button for it? Yeah, see, let's go back to the code it generated. It's right here. All right. I didn't grab all the code, so that's my fault. So here's a button, toggle. Oh, it is using the eye icon. GitHub-copilot. Aw, you. Really? Look at that. It knew the I slash versus the I fill. I don't know. Maybe we are out of a job soon here. Let's see what happens here. Oh, look at this. We have the eye icon. All right, let's try this. Let's see what happens. User at example.com. Let's see. Okay, so I typed in a capital P. Let's see if I say show. Nope. ChatGPT. Oh, wait, there it is. Wait, I think we have a state bug here. Because I clicked it, or it could have just been, okay, let's go back to, no, it is showing it. Let's hide it and see. So the only thing is I want that inside of the text box, right? That's how most of the time they do it in web. I want it inside of there as a icon, the right icon would be, right? The right justified icon. But, I mean, honestly, not bad, ChatGPT so far. And users are going to complain that none of these text boxes aren't lined up, right? Let's ask ChatGPT if it can fix that real quick. Let's see what happens. See if ChatGPT is smart enough to know that. So let's see here. The button that toggles but is let's say can you the location of the button that toggles password to be inside the password field text box. And we want it to be right justified. Let's see what our AI overlord says now. Oh, it's using Z-stacks. Look at you be tricky here. I thought there was a property to have an icon show up on the right of the text field. Thought you could just set an icon to the like the left and right. Am I wrong on that? Chat. Nope. Your money is right on Z-stack. Your money's right because it definitely took Z-stack as the way to do it. In web, you can set a text icon to the left and right. At least that's how we do it in React. But I'm interested to see how it handled it here. So let's take a look at our, yep, here it is. So here's our username, and there's a C stack. So let's see here. Let's grab this all the way to here and take a look at our new code that it gave us. An Xcode. So we had an H stack, now we're getting a V stack. Let's see here. We need this line up to this line. And let's see here. So we're saying trailing. That'll get us right justified. And the cool thing about trailing is that if we have our languages, so like Arabic language is right to left, it would swap it so that the icon would be on the left instead of the right. That's why we have leading and trailing. If you didn't know that, it's for localization. I remember first learning UI kit. The question was always, why don't they just call us left and right? Why are we saying trailing and leading? Because of the fact that some languages read from left to right and other languages read from right to left. And I worked at a company for many years that had people that read both ways. So our mobile apps had to be localized to work in every 32 languages, I think it was. And it wasn't hard. We just got a file. We'd give them a file and they'd send us back a file for each one of the languages. We'd load that into the app and we'd say, here's the localization files for that in the I-18 folder, I think it's called. And it would just be magic. It'd just work. But as long as you use leading and trailing right, it'll automatically switch between those languages. So if you're in an Arabic language that reads right to left, it will swap the icons and do everything right for you, which is pretty badass awesome. I can tell you why, but it's way harder, way harder than it needs to be. That's why Swift UI and UI kit and these kind of things are super awesome for us. Let's take a look here. So we got a Z stack with trailing. If visible, we're going to show a text field. Otherwise, we're going to show the secure text field. That means we got to re-render on that. But honestly, it's not costing us anything. The user's never going to notice the re-render on that. And it's only going to re-render that component part, so that shouldn't be bad. We see the action here. We're going to toggle the button, and then we're also going to add some padding in. Okay. And we're adding padding in not only into the, so that would be for the button itself inside of the Z stack, right? Because then this would be the actual padding off of the Z stack property itself. Let's see what happens when we compile this. This looks right. This does not look wrong. There it is, folks. Holy crap. Oh, maybe I should start looking for a AI programming job instead of a mobile developer advocate job. Exactly. And the next one say, hey, Skynet said that you should use a Z-index. I don't know what to say. I mean, this thing's going to take over the world eventually. We should be bowing down to whatever it says. I don't believe you, tech lead. Talk to Skynet about this thing, man. It's definitely taking over the world. So let's just type in the password and see if it will convert it for me when I click the button. It did it. That's right. And you'll see here I typed in the password wrong. I put a zero, O in instead of a 0. So I need to go through and fix that. Otherwise, this ain't going to work. That's why you need that. But I also, to tell you the truth, the one thing I like about it, it put the padding in. It put the padding between the button and the end of the text field. So it's just the right amount of padding. So it's not like hugging all the way against it, and it doesn't look janky. That actually looks normal, like it should look. So I only asked it to put it inside the text field. I'm kind of impressed that it found some code examples that said add some padding to it. And then we should be able to change it there and sign in, and we should see here authentication was successful. And so, man, oh man, we are cooking with gas here. Holy crap, that's pretty awesome. Our AI overloads are pretty smart. I think we're going to give it some hard things to do now, though, because this is all easy. But, really, we have a problem now because really just displaying a message doesn't do anything. If we think about it, right, displaying a message on the terminal ain't getting the user into this application to do something cool. It's not, right? So we need something to send a message to the person that runs this application, right? Let's think about this for a second. The expense reporter app runs this application. Okay, it's its job to basically run it, but we need some kind of way of sending a message to this to say, hey, if the person's authenticated, don't show this view anymore. Show the content view instead. That's our goal, right? Now, the way to do this that I know of is with Combine. This is where Combine kind of comes in and kicks in and is pretty badass awesome. So it will require us to define this earlier in the stack, call stack, but I think that's going to be fine. Let's see what our overlords say if I ask it to do that. The problem is that our AI overlords don't know about the app, the main view, right? So it's usually called the scene, right? So that's what we're going to tell. We're going to say, can you generate us a new scene that will swap out the view based on if the user is authenticated or not? So let's ask it for ask it to do that for us. Can you create a new app scene swapper that swaps out the. Let's scroll back up to see what it called it login view here. For a content view based on if the user types in the proper username and password. The app scene, I don't know if the app scene swapper is the right term. The app scene swap, well, we'll just call it app scene swapper. Should use Combine with the authentication service to send message to the swapper when the password is correct, and that's when it should swap to the content view. So I've written this before, shocking enough. But I'm interested to see how our AI overlords are going to do this. Kind of exactly how I asked the question. Sure, look at this. You need to make authentication a observable object. That is the correct answer, AI overlords. Ooh, but is that the right syntax for it? Oh, look at this. Look at this. Oh, ChatGPT, you crazy little guy, you. Look at you. Look at you writing me code. Okay, it's done. It's done talking to us. Let's go take a look and see what it did here. So we had to import Combine. That totally makes sense to me, right? So let's go ahead and grab that. And the other thing is you got to make sure that the authentication service inherits from an observable object. Now, this gets into some problems, technically speaking, if we wanted to use a protocol to define like what we call an interface in other languages, right? Where maybe we want to have multiple versions of these. And for our tests, we want to use one that is that's going to be, hey, I have a version of this that's just going to be a mock, and then maybe in production I call auth 0, but just to run my tests, I don't want to spin up auth 0 and all that crap, right? So, but I'll make a protocol for this, and I can inject in the mock version for testing. So, but if I do observable object here, inherit from the entire service, now the problem is that I have a problem where I can't use that protocol, right? No, wait, in Swift you should be able to use multiple. You can use multiple interfaces, right? In Swift, it's been a while. Can Swift use multiple? I think it can now that I think about it, because I'm thinking about it. Wait, Kotlin allows this, and so does Java. A single class. I think the answer is yes. I guess you could do inheritance on it too. The simple answer is you can't. That's what Stack Overflow says. Stack Overflow is a jerk. I think that's wrong. I think what you could do is you'd have to use inheritance stacking to do this. I'm pretty sure you could do that with it. Yeah, I don't think they're right either. You should absolutely be able to. I mean, that's the whole point of interfaces, right? Is the difference between an abstract class and an interface was an interface you could, like if you look at Java, look at .NET, most other object-oriented languages, exactly, you're exactly right? Because if we think about it, like in .NET, C#, Java, those Kotlin, if you have an abstract class, that is a single level of inheritance. You only can inherit from one class. But interfaces are just a contract. You should be able to inherit from as many of those as you want to. You just have to implement each one of the contracts, right? And so a protocol is the true, protocols came from Smalltalk because Smalltalk was the first object-oriented programming language. I don't know if you guys all know that or not, but Smalltalk was the big one that put object-oriented programming on the map. And Apple made Object-C, which was just C with objects, based off of Smalltalk. So most of the terminology came from Smalltalk, like protocols, for example. We should absolutely be able to do this. Now I think about this, I don't know why. Maybe it's late at night. So let's see here. We're going to change our definition here to be that, but we can modify it eventually to also make it interface if we need to. So let's go into here and say we don't inherit from anything right now, so let's inherit from an observable object instead. And then what we're going to do here is they do have I want to say they have a callback here. Let's go look here and see what's going on here. And let's see here. So then it's using this for communication. So let's go here. Go back to our code here. So we got a callback with a pass-through subject that's saying void and never. And we're missing something though here. I forgot to import Combine. So that otherwise pass-through subject isn't available. Let's see what's complaining about now. It should see that now. Okay, perfect. I was gonna say, wait a minute. I know that syntax right. Smalltalk is pretty cool as a language. I have gotten used to languages that don't use semicolons like Kotlin and Swift. And honestly, here's the cool thing. If you're a Swift developer, you can be a Kotlin developer in a weekend because the syntax is almost the same. Almost the same. When I say almost the same, it's like 90% there. I mean, literally, here's some Kotlin code. If you take a look, instead of the word func, F-U-N-C, we have F-U-N. That's it. So the difference between calling a function in Swift and Kotlin is one letter. And it's pretty much the same thing. If you look here, class, export application, we inherit from this thing. It's pretty basic. This is literally Kotlin code for Android. And this gets a little bit crazy in here. Let's not look at that code because that's a little bit Kotlin syntax. Because Kotlin still is backward compatible with Java, the JDK. So there's a couple of things in, just like Swift is backward compatible with like Object-C, you can call code back and forth. Kotlin has the same thing with Java, and it makes some of the Kotlin code a little icky. But the theory is, it's fine. It's fine. You could literally, I am confident a good Swift developer could be a good Kotlin developer in a weekend. Maybe a couple weeks. You could hack your way through it easily if you're a Swift developer. So if we look here in our app here, this is where we're going to do our cool thing here. So we need to define our authentication service. This is where I was saying earlier, we have to define it higher in the call stack. Now, and it's going to pass it into the login view. And that totally made sense what I said there earlier, because we don't want to make it twice. Because if we made it twice, we wouldn't have the same state variables because we've been making two definitions of it. So we almost, like another way to do this is make it like a static class. And there's tricks to do that, or a singleton is what is the computer science terminology for that. But we'll do this way. This is fine. It's high enough on the call stack where this isn't wrong. I think a tech lead would probably argue with this that there should probably be a singleton to guarantee that it states in memory only once, no matter what, right? And that would guarantee that somebody doesn't accidentally make it twice by accident, and that could absolutely happen. And maybe we'll ask our AI overlord to do that. But for right now, this is the right way to do it. It's not the wrong way to do it. Let's put it that way. And for a simple example app, this isn't necessarily the wrong way. So if we go here, and now it's just checking the is authentication property. And if it changes, it'll swap the views for us. I mean, this is textbook of how to do this. It should be in here though. Yeah. So yeah, so this should remember state, right? And so now, wait, what's going on here? Oh, because we have to update login view, right? Because the constructor in login view does not know that it needs to take in an authentication service. So we have to update a login view also. So let's see here. Where is our login view right now? That's content view. Where did I put login view at? Oh, authentication view is what I call it. I'm calling it something different than what our overlords said. So that's the difference here. So let's go back to our overlords. They're saying here that in the login view, which I'm calling authentication view, that you have to change the constructor body. So view, let's see here. You need modify login to take authentication as a parameter. Use a service when signed in. So is visible. Let's modify our Swift code to do that. And we'll take this definition out. Oop. I'm using the VI key bindings, by the way. If you're trying to figure out like why my code is disappearing randomly when I only hit one letter, that's because I am old and I started before we had IDEs, and I learned VI years and years ago, and I cannot type without it. And so because of that, the VI key bindings in Xcode you can enable from editor and VI mode, Vim mode, it's right here. But I warned you, if you don't know Vim, it's very jarring to learn. But once you learn it, it's really hard to type without it. I'll be honest with you, really, really hard. You do all kinds of crazy things. So, oh, the preview's got to change too because we have to pass it in. Let's see what, this is where I was saying the singleton thing needs to happen. What does it tell us to do over here? Look at this, the rest of your code. Aaron, you don't work because the preview doesn't work now. I think the answer to that is we could just put a let in there, right? Right quit every time. That's right. Bang right quit. Here's the, I'll put this in chat. Here is the joke of the day for any VI people. Shift ZZ. That is the Emacs shortcut to close out of Emacs. It also works in Vim. And I do believe the developers put it in as a joke to make fun of the Emacs people that couldn't figure out how to get out of VI. So I can tell you that that keyboard shortcut does work in all versions of VI that I know of. But it is not a VI shortcut. It is a Emacs shortcut. A little bit of history joking for you. That's where, you have some cool developers who are like, we're going to make fun of the people that use our competitor. We'll put a shortcut in just so they can figure out how to get out of it using the only keyboard shortcuts they know of. Yeah, that's pretty great. Let's see here. So it broke us though, because technically speaking, the rest of our code does not tell us how to get the preview working. So I'm gonna tell ChatGPT it broke my code. The preview no longer works because the authentication service isn't passed in. Can you update the preview code to work with your new authentication service code? Well, that's good. I mean, our AI overlord's already doing all the work for us. Why not? So it just passes the bug. And just makes a new one, right? And that logically makes sense, right? Because this is a preview. You don't care. It's not state. Now, this is interesting. Whoa, let's go back. Oh, this is where our AI overlords did bad to us, though. Think about this for a second. It doesn't know about macros. And the new way of doing this was with macros. And you'll see here, it's calling strut. It's making the old syntax to it. So this is an example where ChatGPT for us actually failed. And the reason why it failed is because of the fact that it doesn't know the new macro syntax yet. It's not been updated. So this code's actually bad. This isn't the way that we want to do this. Let's go back out. And instead, if we're smart enough to know what it's trying to cook here, right, we can say, well, we know it's just this part that we need to take. We just need to take out the actual definition that we just want to define a new authentication service to keep the preview working. But this is going to be where if you're a newbie programmer and you don't know anything about object-oriented programming and you're just reading ChatGPT and you're using this new beta, you're not going to understand this. You're going to be like, well, wait, why didn't that work? What's a struct thing? I don't understand this. So I think what we're learning here is our AI overloads are only smart as the data that they've been given to train off of, and they haven't been trained off of the new stuff like macros, and so they're not going to give you any kind of answer that's going to use any of the new code syntaxes or anything that's really good in the universe. I think we're safe to say we can keep our jobs a little bit longer because of the fact that it's just, how are they going to keep it trained dynamically, right? I mean, this is still a beta, I guess, ChatGPT 4. But if the data set's only from September of 2022, it's only as smart as 2022. Well, in mobile, everything changes every year. Every year we have a new release of iOS, and every year we have a new release of Android. It's been like that since the beginning of the mobile platforms, and I don't think it's changing anytime soon. And every single year, whether you're Kotlin or in Jetpack Compose, or if you're Swift and SwiftUI, we have a new APIs, we have a new syntax, new way of doing things. If our AI overlords can't keep up with us, they're not going to be good. Not stuck in the Exactly. I love it. This should work now. We should now be able to compile again. And this, build failed. What do we got? What did we fail on? Cannot find login view in scope. Oh, because we called it authentication view. Our AI overlords don't know that I named the file differently when I created it. This should work now. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and try this one more time. Let's try password here. Click here and password. I'll even show my password because I don't know if I typed it in right or not. That looks right. So login successful, but we didn't route over. So what happened here? Let's take a look here. So that didn't work. So we have authentication service set up here. We're saying if authentication service is authenticated, then content view, otherwise authentication view. We're passing in the authentication service, the authentication view. Let's go through and see what happens here. Authentication should be an observable object, and that means it should be on the stack and pointed to the heap. We're checking here when the button's clicked. Authentication service, authenticate. If authenticated, we don't even need this. We just need to call the authentication service. Well, we would need it because we need to print the password failed message. We would want that to show up, right? But maybe we need to leave early on Fridays and blame AI for shipping to production. That's a good idea. If AI overlords become like our SRE people or our people that are doing our build pipelines and stuff, oh boy, yeah. Well, this is kind of interesting because I see authentication successful here, right? But the message is not getting through. And if we look here, we have an observable object. Authentication is false by default, and did send. We'll do a change, and then we're saying here. But this is the problem. We don't change the value here. Look, it just returns true. That's the problem. We need to do two things. So did our AI overlords tell us to change that code, and I just forgot to copy and paste it in? Let's take a look and see if it did it wrong, or if it's me not copying and pasting it wrong. Is this human error, or is this our AI overlord's error? Yeah, it's my error. Take a look. They basically changed the method to basically not return anything at all, and just is authenticated true or false. Let's copy that code. So I didn't listen to our AI overlords, and it was my fault to have a bug, but we should return false here. The reason why we want to return false is that if you're not authenticated, we need to still show that message up, right? We want to show that your password is wrong. Otherwise, users are going to be sitting there going, what the hell just happened? I don't know what happened. And usually you throw like a red text at the bottom underneath the sign-in button that says, your password's wrong or whatever shit that happens. I wish we had 4-day work weeks. I'm so jealous when I hear about these people in Europe that have 4-day work weeks. And they're like, oh yeah, quality of life is improved and all this and that. And I'm like, well, okay. In the US, we have to these days even complain about getting paid. It's not great. People don't understand we're an expensive country to live in. We're not cheap, us developers, because the places we live are expensive. You can't, in San Francisco, you can't buy a house for under $4 million. I mean, it's like you can't pay people peanuts in Cokes and think that you're gonna get them to be able to live. There it is. We work, and I was able to click the sign in button, and we popped out. That is a perfect way to end the night, folks. It's about 12:30 my time here, and I got to get up for 6 a.m. for a morning call stand-up. I lead a team out of Poland, so I'm going to have to cut the stream, I think, at this point in time. We're going to start streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so I'll definitely be doing a 3 p.m. Central Time, which is going to be 1 p.m. Pacific Time, and I'll probably be doing a nightly stream also, right around the same time I started tonight, to kind of get this app cranked out. So I appreciate everybody that kind of joined me here. Yeah, absolutely. So jump in. So what we're going to do on Tuesday is we're going to get a 3-stack navigation working. We're going to get navigation view working with our, it's called split view. We'll get a 3-stack split view working. We'll get a sign out button working so that it will automatically route us back to that same workflow using Combine. And that this is all pretty easy to do because we can send a message using Combine again back to the main view, that the app, the thing that is the owner of everything. We'll send a message back to it that says, hey, they signed out. Change the authentication back to false. If we change the authentication back to false, if we think about this, we've already done all the work it takes to make this work. And that's the beauty of Combine, right? If we look here, all we have to do is say if it's authenticated as false, it will lock us back to the login view or the authentication view, right? So the beautiful thing is if we make a sign-in button or sign out button, all we have to do is go into the authentication service and change that to false. The second that happens, it'll just log it out automatically. Now, of course, in there, you would drop things like anything that's in memory, like, hey, if I got some token cache or, for like a REST API or something like that, you drop all that shit at that time, right? You need to drop that because otherwise you're not really sure what the universe is going to be in security. But yeah, the our AI overlords aren't bad. They're not smart. They don't know about the new SwiftUI syntax. They don't know about macros and stuff. But it's not bad per se. I mean, could this get you by a code review? It can get you halfway there. What I like the most about our AI overlords is that it's explaining to you in the text what it's doing, right? And that's something that's even more important, if you ask me, is that it's telling you why it's giving you the example it's giving you, because Stack Overflow doesn't always give you the answer of why it's doing it. And that's why sometimes you look at Stack Overflow's answer, you're like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this means. Why are you recommending this? And some guy on there just said, no, this is the way to do it. And you're like, okay, but why is it the way to do it? Because that's what someone's going to ask me. And then you're Googling, okay, I'm going to look at this API that he told me to use. And you're Googling to figure out, go to Apple's docs to figure out how that works. It's literally telling you why it's doing that here. And that's what ChatGPT does right, is it really kind of is giving you some more information than probably a Stack Overflow person would. Is this going to replace us? No. But will it probably replace using Stack Overflow and Google? Probably. I mean, let's face it, if this gets better, a couple of versions, you don't need Google and you don't need Stack Overflow anymore. You could probably just use this. And if we can get this working in the IDE, like I said earlier, where I've got this, and I'll try to use the IDE, this plugin that I did, which is kind of running down here. I'll try to use the IDE plugin on Tuesday a little bit so we can see how Copilot works instead of ChatGPT. It works a little bit different. It scans the current code we have in the IDE, so it only knows about the code inside there, and it makes the suggestions based on the current code it sees. So it's a different way of thinking about it. I like ChatGPT because I can just ask it a question. But in Copilot, it's more of a autocomplete syntax for you. It will guess what you want to do based on what the current code you have is. So it's a different way of thinking. It's like a more intelligent version of Apple's autocomplete. That's how I think of Copilot. So, folks, I want to thank everybody that, it's a great learning tool. I want to thank everybody that attended the stream for tonight. I'm going to shut it down for now, but I'll be back on Tuesday. I will post out on the Twitters and stuff when I go live, and I look forward to seeing all you guys there. And we're going to keep working with our AI overlords. And we'll get a database working. We'll get a bunch of, like I said, this split view working, and we'll get a pretty decent UI. I've got a complicated thing I wanted to build, so I'm interested to see how well it knows how to write more complicated UI. So we'll find that answer on Tuesday. Again, I want to thank you very much for this, and I'm going to head out. So you guys take care and have a great night or a great morning, I guess, depending on what time zone you're in. So take care.